So moving on, let's talk about central bank digital currencies.
Yes.
Central bank digital currencies are central bank digital currencies. It's something that is being of great interest.
Yes.
Lately.
The past couple of years, I could say.
Yeah.
And this week, the central bank released a report on the central bank digital currency, basically indicating that it's starting to look into issuing out central bank digital currency, or rather it's studying the central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So it released a discussion paper on the central bank digital currency, where basically they were acknowledging the advent of central bank digital currency, with other governments and some currencies. Some countries already having issued digital currencies. In October of last year, Nigeria was the first African country to issue digital currency, with the e-naira. But we've also had, I think, Bahamas already issued.
Yeah, Bahamas is actually the first country globally to do that. The
Caribbean countries are actually, because there's Bahamas and I'm forgetting the second country, but also Jamaica had a piloted the digital currency last year, and they were indicating that this year they are going to now fully launch it.
Okay.
The big boy in the East has, of course, done it.
Who?
China.
Yeah, but they're still not fully. It's still on pilot phase. Yeah. But the thing about China is, okay, there are actually quite many discussions which are interesting about the digital currency space, on how, for instance, people fear that China would be using the digital currency to enhance their authoritarian rule and authoritarian influence over its citizen, and using the digital currency actually as a mean, probably make it that they'll be able to track each and every transaction that you make, and they're able to track it like from the beginning to the very end. And if you purchase things that
they need the digital currency to do that? I feel like they can do it anyway.
They're already
existing
doing
infrastructure.
But I think now,
they have
because
a lot
now
of e-payment systems, they have a lot of.
They do have a lot of e-payment system, but now the thing with the central bank digital currency is now
the government.
They have it from the source. You know, right now you depend on intermediaries, and they need a bit of your information.
A bit.
They need like your history with the bank, your history with what, to get this information. But now, like, they're getting this information on steroids right from the beginning. They do have the information, but it can now be like a hyper surveillance, a hyper commercial level of surveillance on the citizens.
Absolutely.
To where it
Do you
was.
know how bad the surveillance of the government, or the mediation of the interference of business by the government is in China? It's so serious that TikTok, which was founded in China, had a different version in China.
Yeah, they have almost everything
because
different in China.
Exactly. That's to tell you that the government is so invested, and it's really keen on looking at every angle of your operations as a company to make sure that they agree, or what you're doing that they're in agreement with everything that you do. Yeah. So they don't need to.
They do need it. It reduces.
I don't need to come up with a new innovation.
So what's your point? What's your point?
Ask you.
So what's your point, Easter?
I want this information.
You see, now you have to ask. They won't need to ask.
No, I'm not getting the gist of what are you guys arguing about? I don't think it's...
No, what Easter is saying that already China is at a level of surveillance that they do not need
digital currency
to surveil. Like, it won't have an impact on the level of surveillance.
Of course it would have an impact.
It would. That's why you are not on our space.
So guys,
are we really gonna pull that card every single time?
Yes. Anyway, so going back to the digital currency. So basically, as a definition, a digital currency is your normal currency issued in an electronic format by the central bank. And
so you're saying it's the same as e-money?
Yeah, it's e-money basically. Only that this is issued by the central bank, and ideally it's supposed to have an exchange rate to the fiat currency of 1 to 1. Yeah, But now the thing with digital currencies, because it's something new and there are so many different ways of implementing it, actually it could be implemented in a myriad of ways. So for instance, there are a number of questions that come up with the digital currency. If the central bank is going to issue a digital currency and it's able to electronically, let's say, send money to you, it brings it calls into question what will be the relevance of banks going forward.
And do you know what, Dan? I had a discussion with the gentleman yesterday about this particular discussion paper, and he was telling me that I don't know, mobile money players should be worried.
Yes.
And I told him that
more than banks, actually.
I told him that the Kenya Bankers Association should be even more worried than the mobile money players. And here's the thing. So I know the central bank has asked that people, share their views, and their understandings, what they would want in this particular model. And I think the deadline for that is in May 20th. So now we have time to send information to the CBK. But looking at the issue of banks, number one, so if the CBK will be deposit taking, so it creates a platform where I can put my money there. So if I want to pay, I just pay. Okay. So what will be would I require a bank? Because I can store my money there. So that's the challenge where the banks will be coming in. And then another thing is...
Is the central bank going to lend you money?
No. Relax. We'll get there. The second thing is actually interest rate. So if the CBK, if I put my money on that e-platform and it gains interest, again I ask, what is the need for the bank? To answer Easter's question, Easter said, will the CBK give you a bank? I wouldn't give you a loan. I wouldn't expect that primarily. But then you have to understand that these days, even today as we talk, Dan, especially when it comes to corporate banking, in the SME space category that is, fintechs are already giving banks a run for their money simply because of the innovation that is coming there. And at the end of the day, I can take my statement from the e-platform that CBK has created and take it to the bank or a SACCO or any lending place, fintech, and I can get money. But I think for me, my biggest challenge is actually simplicity. I would really like CBK to structure this thing in a very simple manner. If we go back to M-Pesa, and this is something that sometimes we overlook. The reason why M-Pesa really succeeded very well is because of simplicity. Dan, if you want to send me money via M-Pesa today, there are only 4 very simple steps. If you go to M-Pesa, 1, you go to send money. Number 2, you enter my phone number. Number 3, you put in the amount. Number 4, you put in the PIN, and the money is gone. As simple as that. It's not even more than 5 processes. So for me, I'm really looking at simplicity. That's one of my biggest things in this discussion paper. If CBK is going to come up with something simple, because you have to understand that people in the rural areas, the aging population, if they find that thing difficult, you can't send them money via that. They'll tell you, I don't know how to use it. So for me, I'm really looking out for simplicity. I
agree with you on the simplicity of M-Pesa. M-Pesa is very simple to use, even on a feature phone. But looking at the transactions we have in the economy, only 30% of the transactions are done electronically. So by electronically, I don't mean M-Pesa. I mean M-Pesa cards. So 70 now is cash. So we are far from going cashless. So do you think this is a good time to make such an innovation when people don't even... If you were 70% cashless, then maybe you'd see that the adoption rate for this would be quicker, much faster.
I think the discussion for now, it's not we are not totally eliminating the physical. They're going to be
no, I'm speaking to the adoption rate.
The adoption rate will happen.
Higgins says that for it to be adopted much faster, it has to be simple.
Absolutely. When you say that 30%, you say 30% of transactions are actually
happen electronically.
Then 70% we are still a cash-based economy. If you think about it, because still at the moment matatus are still cash-based.
But you see, I'm looking at my lifestyle, and if it's not in a matatu, there's nowhere else I use cash.
Okay, but then Easter. Okay, so how does that relate back to this digital currency?
Yeah, but you'll give us
just circle it back to that.
How are you gonna replace my M-Pesa to instead of paying by M-Pesa, I pay using this digital currency?
And actually, let me. Okay, so number one, it's not a replacement. This is an alternative coming. But then
it's not replace the cash. The cash system.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, it's going. Of course, it's going to take away from cash. But
Exactly.
I'm not saying
but cash will still be there.
M-Pesa as a system.
Not
Cash
the
will
same
still
amount.
be there.
Not the same
Cash will
amount.
still be there.
No, but it'll still be using either you can
That will be creating
transact cash. You can either transact.
Yeah, but
using
then
the
Easter cash will still be there because if you have cash down and you want to convert it to and you want it to move to the digital now to your e-wallet, of course you'll have to have cash, physical money that you'll use to convert it. The medium of converting that, it's still yet to be figured out.
But
I don't know if they will go the M-Pesa way or
I'm
they will
saying
use
in
banks.
the long
No,
run,
but the thing is,
replacement is inevitable. Replacement of that, if we are to adopt that, in the long run, it would have to.
eventually we might
Who
get
knows?
to a point.
Yeah. Who knows?
But and that's the other thing that is.
No, we know it is given.
That's what you're saying, Keegan, is also one of the things that is appealing about digital currency when you're saying the medium of exchange.
Yeah.
In this case, because for Safaricom you have to go to a dealer,
To the agent,
to the M-Pesa agent, and give him cash, and then at that point he can facilitate the amount to your phone.
Yeah.
But in this case, because you and I have the same digital currency, I don't need to go to an M-Pesa agent. I just come give you cash, and
we
you send
just
the wallet.
exchange,
Yeah, you just exchange immediately at
Makes
that point.
sense.
Yeah.
And then, and I think an advantage that this thing will bring, and I think this would probably contribute to the loss of hair in Peter Ndegwa's head, is the issue of cost, because we have been complaining how expensive digital payment is, mobile money is, and particularly M-Pesa, which of course is the largest product, transaction charges. So that has been a pain to many Kenyans.
Yeah.
So now if they get an alternative that is far much cheaper, or even in some circumstances free, who knows, then they would go into that space. For me, another thing that I'm looking at, and I'm borrowing this from Bahamas, which was the first country in the world to come to bring this in.
Yeah.
So, currently, transfer of money in a bank, if it exceeds $10,000, a million bob, you will have to disclose the particulars of that transaction for the purposes of the money laundering act and all that. So now, when it comes to digital currencies, will we also, we are still at that stage, and this is the purpose of the discussion paper, is to actually explore, to explore the various areas. So my thinking is, will we look at, let's say, transaction, will we put a cap? Because if you look at the model in Bahamas, it's first of all in Bahamas, the model is that the CBK is not a deposit taker. So what it does is the CBK.
Yeah, their central bank.
Their central bank. No, not the CBK. So the central bank is not probably CBB. Yeah. Thank you for that, Easter. So you actually get the digital currency from third party players. That's how they've modeled it. And then they've put a cap in how much you can have in your account at every particular point, how much you can hold. And then they've also put a cap of the number of transactions that you can do per month. So of course, this is different from models that are there in Nigeria and in all the other places. So for me, with having in mind the cap that we have in banking transactions at the moment, I'm seeing probably we can move to a way where we can put a cap in transaction. Let's say you can't transact more than $1 million bob in the digital currency. I don't know. We yet to find out.
No, that makes sense, because actually when you're looking at the CBK, well, now they are coming up with the digital currency. Before there were talks of the crypto. Right, and they were so apprehensive about that.
Even I think just 2 weeks ago, the CBK governor reaffirmed his position on cryptocurrency. So there's that notion that the decision makers at the CBK have about crypto, and so it's not going to be adopted easily. But then you understand that crypto is not being adopted
because of the associated. There's no traceability. There's no transparency as to. It's very easy to launder money and to use it on the dark web and all that.
Yeah, there's no one controlling it.
Yes, so I think that is, it not only makes sense, but I think it's something Patrick must have given a thought.
Do you think
I've considered to create a cap?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to make it exactly the same thing you are trying to avoid by a crypto.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you know, the crypto, there has always been a battle about monetary sovereignty. Okay, where now
who owns that currency?
Who controls things here? Who's the boss here? You know, when it comes to payments. But then, Dan, let me just pose this question.
But just a quick mention on crypto. When you say central banks would not accept crypto,
not central banks, the CBK.
Yeah, the CBK. Yeah, and I think that's also part of the reason they are looking into into digital currencies, because even when you look at the discussion paper, part of the reason is to say that they want to have a trusted source of digital currency to try and have people not relying on other forms of currency such as cryptocurrencies.
Actually, one of the benefits is consumer protection.
Yes, that's the argument that they're making. Although in terms of Bitcoin, for instance, El Salvador, last year, September.
Where is that?
El Salvador, I don't know where it is.
Okay.
Is it? Where's El Salvador?
Probably South America.
Yeah, it sounds like South American. But yeah, they formally adopted Bitcoin as legal tender in September last year. So
wow. And you know, we're seeing, you know, companies, big companies like Tesla, you know, accepting cryptocurrency. So that has been a thing. But then, Dan, let me pose this to you, because in this podcast we've talked a lot about formalization of the informal sector and, you know, KRA increasing revenues.
Is this a yes or no question again?
It's not a yes or no. no, I wouldn't pull that. Now, the thing here is, I was just exploring this thought. So when you have this digital currency by the CBK, CBK would be able to see, you see the way today we have a till number for a business. Then you open a business, you have a till number, so if I can pay via M-Pesa. So I'm posing that as a business, you'll also have the digital currency account. You also have a wallet. So I can pay to you through digital currency. So that way, CBK are actually going to see the money that you're receiving. So they can share that information easily with KRA. They can actually plug KRA into the system, and KRA can be able to estimate your revenues. So that come end of year, KRA can see that Easter's business, they had a revenues past there 100 million, and he has only remitted 5k in corporate tax. What is happening? So do you think that now the government is getting an upper hand, you know, and now formalization of the informal sector, that businesses now will be forced to join the formal side?
Yeah, I think that's one, definitely, especially if everything moves fully digital. That's one of the, I don't know whether it's an upside to who. An upside to the government. They'll be able to easily track your whether you're actually truthful in saying you cannot, you have nil returns to file and whatnot. And they can also quite easily track your expenses versus your like, basically, the government will have your bank statements and your bank inflows and outflows, like in and out, like straightforward like that. So that's one side. On the other hand, I also think for the SMEs, who are the ones who are disenfranchised when it comes to access to capital and access to credit, because now their cash flows will be in a more steady kind of place. Also for them, it will be easier to get financing, capital in this case. So that's the
there is a track record of their cash flow.
Yeah, it's easy to see their cash flows and whatnot.
Years back, 20 years ago, for you to, the only proof of transactions was bank statement.
Yes.
Safaricom came with M-Pesa, and now you can walk into a bank with M-Pesa statement.
Absolutely.
So that's where we're headed even with this. Right? So we get at a point when we'll have adopted the digital currency thing fully. Because, I mean, as a consumer, I'll prefer to pay you by that. Why? Because M-Pesa. Sorry, not M-Pesa. And just to, mobile money is expensive.
It is.
So I'll prefer to pay you by that. Right?
Exactly.
So as a producer or as a seller, you go where your market leads you, right? Your customers. So if your customers come and they need M-Pesa, you'll have a till. If they need Airtel money, you'll have that one. If you go with as per the demand, right? You don't want to leave any money on the table. So most of them come to you and everyone is like, ukona digital currency, right? You'll be forced to get it from the CBK.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a given.
And you know, just to tie back,
the CBK does not even have to force anything.
So that Easter sees a point as to why China should do this.
Yeah.
You see now the advantage when it comes to tracking businesses.
I'm not with you in saying that China should do this.
Easter was making an argument that China is already.
I said they don't need to.
That China they do not need to because of the level of surveillance that they have on the citizens. But now you see with this they can even have an upper hand because they don't need, you see today you'd have to learn the revenues of a company really well. You'd have to go to Safaricom. Then Safaricom gives you that information, but then there is a regulatory minefield there, you know, with the communications authority and all. But then today with this you can be able to see KRA will just see directly through CBK.
If the KRA wants to get information on who on Kanye,
on me,
they have to go through, and they want your M-Pesa statements. They have to go through this.
Yes.
And they have to go through Safaricom.
Yeah, they have to go through
pass
Safaricom.
through communications authority.
But then
which
they
is
have
another arm of the government.
yes, and then they actually, because it's Dan has not given consent in this case, so they should actually get permission through the High Court to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what it is like in China? Where
I don't know.
Hey, you cannot. It's not an option.
Yeah, okay. But then the other thing also that I've seen guys talking about or discussing is on the flip side, it could lead to hyperinflation. Like we can go to a period of like crazy hyperinflation.
And I think that is when you guys say
even assuming
it's not replacing.
Even assuming
if it's not replacing, if it's adding, that's how hyperinflation.
Let's break down the concept.
Let's take the example of COVID and take the example of the US where there was a stimulus check or issue where they needed to supply money to people for COVID recovery efforts. And they issued checks of $1,200 last year.
Yeah.
So assume a situation where a government can very easily multiply the number of it can easily create like just money into your account as a stimulus
from nothing.
So you've gotten a populist leader who comes and campaign.
Why are you looking at me when you're saying
okay, so because I'm breaking it down to you're the one who's asked.
No, because previously you guys have referred to people.
So you have a populist leader who's come and say, yo, we'll be giving 6,000 shillings to every.
God, wow. Every month.
Yeah, we'll be giving 6,000 shillings every month to every unemployed Kenyan. And the central bank has the ability to just send 6,000 to your wallet immediately.
But I think
so of course
that has little to do with the digital currency and the whole ecosystem. That has a lot to deal with the government and the populist leader, as you've said, because they could have found other ways of disseminating, like M-Pesa or others. Look at the government at the height of COVID was distributing around 250 million every week to households in the informal sector.
You can't do what you do with that.
There were methods of dissemination. So this is just a method of dissemination.
It is quicker. It is. I feel like you can just create it literally from you just send it to people. You can send it to businesses.
Yes, but it's just a medium.
Yeah, it's a medium of
Keegan, you said
of transaction.
For you to put money on this system, you have to have physical cash.
Of course,
exactly. So now, how are you going to use that as a?
It's like today, if you want money in your account, you need
pay
cash.
someone in I don't know which village 6K. From nowhere out of you have to inject. You have to give Safaricom some cash.
This can be a good medium. I agree that.
Yeah.
And I think it could be easily used by guys to just send money to people because they can.
Anyway, I wouldn't mind receiving money in my wallet, digital currency.
So that's the idea. So I think
I don't see that risk.
You don't see that?
No.
I think it's far-fetched because at the end of the day, this is just a medium. Like M-Pesa.
Like you said, it is 1-to-1 ratio.
The decision has to come from above.
The ratio is 1-to-1. So it's not like... It has to be... Okay, you said it leads to hyperinflation. Okay, still.
Okay,
Again, like-
but the,
like
but the
Kigan said,
hyperinflation, you know me, I thought that
very
initially,
far-fetched.
I thought that the hyperinflation would come out of this ecosystem, you know, and all that. But as Dan has described, it's coming from an external factor. I mean, which Dan has a point, the medium would facilitate that in an easier
If
manner.
it was that easy, you see how people were at ECG or Amka at what time, then you get I don't know how much airtime from Safaricom hacked. You know, you could be having that with cash. You wake up and you have 10k in your an extra 10k.
Guys, let's
If it was
continue.
that easy.
We're almost 1
It
hour.
will be that easy.
Why were people stealing airtime and not cash?
No, I'm saying it will be that easy.
Will be.
Easter.
Okay.
I don't see the point in that you guys are raising.
You don't
anyway,
see the-
let's continue.
Are you
We're
following?
almost,
Are
we're
you
almost
following?
in
That's the
an
first
hour.
question.
Yeah, anyway, there's a lot that is I think even this is what central bank governors are having similar discussions because I don't think anyone knows when Dr. Njoroge was doing his PhD in econ, like I don't think this is something that he ever thought
At that time.
At that time, it's
Of
something
course.
that could be something he's discussing. But yeah, the discussion on digital currencies are very interesting.
Are you expecting? I'm actually expecting a press release from KBA.
On that? No, I think once they see the reality, but I think that what I can say the KBA will do, the KBA will insist that even if it's a digital currency, they will still need to remain as the intermediary,
so that they don't.
Yeah,
So
to
that-
disseminate the digital currency.
through. So you still need to have
go
an
to the
account
bank
through a
and
normal
they-
bank, yeah, and then their whole credit process and whatnot. So there are two. That's one of the other. There's either a direct way where you hold an account with the central bank,
Yeah.
and the central bank now becomes the country's central bank
Retail
as well
banker.
as commercial banker. But then there's the other option of having
banks
using
and the
the intermediaries and having the money sitting within the intermediaries. So there's a whole lot of discussion. I'd be interested to look more maybe into Nigeria and see how
it works.
it has worked over the past since it was launched.
I think 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think giving it more time, and then probably this is definitely a discussion I know we're going to have later. Yeah, so very quickly, that's a discussion that can never end. So we'll put a pin on it at this
Clearly.
point.